Hi, in today's video we'll be talking about how to become a UX researcher. So in this video I'll walk you through what I'll call a realistic roadmap to becoming a UX researcher, especially now. This will include what this role involves, the skills that really matter, and the different paths that people take to get into this field. So whether you're a student exploring career options or you're someone who is considering switching careers, by the end of this video, you have a clearer picture of what the journey into UX research can look like. So we start by talking about what UX research actually is, and then talk about what UX researchers really do. We'll also talk about the skills that really matter and the paths that people take to get into this field. Let's get right into it. I actually talked about how to break into UX research about a year ago on this channel, but I wanted to revisit the topic and share a more current roadmap for anyone exploring the field today. At its core, UX research is actually the systematic study of users and their experiences with products. But you might ask, what does that actually mean? What exactly does that mean? I'll break it down. Now let's imagine a team building a mobile app. On that team, the designers might focus on the interface. The software engineers might focus on building the functionality. But an important question still remains: how will real people experience this product? That's where UX research comes in. If I would break it down, UX researchers study things like how will people interact with technology? What kind of problems will they encounter? What are their expectations from these digital experiences? Things like what informs their decisions. Let me give you a good common example. So, for example, let's imagine that this mobile app is an online store, and somehow users are abandoning the checkout process on this online store. So as a UX researcher, in your attempt to understand why people are abandoning the checkout process, you might investigate questions like, are people confused by the interface? Or maybe things like, oh, is the checkout process too long? Or are there trust concerns during payment? What all of these mean is that by studying real user behavior, UX researchers help teams build products that better match human needs. So in practice, what does a UX researcher actually do? I'll break it down for you. At a high level, the job revolves around three major activities. First, UX researchers help teams to identify the right questions to investigate about users and their experiences with the product. And these questions usually emerge during different stages of product development. For example, let's imagine that we are building a new feature. Before designing anything, the team might need to first understand what problems are users trying to solve. We might also need to understand how are they approaching that problem currently. Also, so we might want to know what frustrations are they experiencing today. These questions are examples of early discovery questions, and UX research helps teams to explore them before they invest time and resources into building solutions. Now let's imagine a different situation. Let's imagine that the product already exists. Let's go back to the example I gave of people abandoning a checkout process. Now that product already exists. In this case, the research questions might be something around, where are people dropping off during checkout? Is something confusing in the interface? Or is the process too long? Or maybe even too complicated? Now, in this case, UX research helps teams diagnose what might be going wrong in the experience. Notice that the product already exists. And there are also situations where teams want to evaluate how well a design works. For example, before launching a new interface, a UX researcher might ask, can users complete key tasks? Are there moments where people get stuck or they get confused? Now, this type of research helps teams to identify usability issues before they release a product to a wider audience. So when we say that UX researchers help teams identify the right question, what we mean is that they help teams move from assumptions like we think users like this product or like this feature to evidence-based questions like how do users actually interact with this feature and what problems do they encounter. So that shift from assumptions to structured questions is one of the most valuable contributions that UX research brings to product development. Now that they have helped to identify the right questions, second, UX researchers choose methods to answer those questions. Now, different research questions require different research approaches or research methods to answer them. For example, if a team wants to understand why people or why users behave a certain way, a UX researcher might conduct user interviews to learn about people's motivations and their experiences. And if the goal is to see whether users are able to successfully complete tasks, a researcher might choose to run a usability study or usability test where participants try to use the product and the researcher observes to see what works and what doesn't. And if a team wants to understand patterns across a larger group of users, a researcher might choose to use surveys or behavioral data to identify trends. So like I said earlier, different research questions often require different research approaches or different research methods. So part of the UX researcher's job is deciding which research method best answers the question the team is trying to solve. And if I already mentioned it, I'd said that they choose the right method and then they use the method to solve the question. And third, the UX researchers analyze what they learn from using the methods and translate those findings into insights that the product team can use. So of course, after collecting data from the methods, from the interviews, from the surveys, from the usability testing, or whatever method that they choose to use, they analyze this large amount of information to identify patterns and then generate insight that the product team can use. Those insights are then shared with the team, with designers, product managers, engineers, so that we can make better decisions about how to design the product or how to improve the product. Decisions like what features should we prioritize, how should the interface be improved, what problems should we solve next. Those kind of decisions are what the insights help with. In many ways, UX researchers act as the bridge between the product team and the users. On one side, they spend a lot of time with the users, trying to understand the users, understanding their goals, understanding their frustrations, simply understanding how they interact with technology in real life. And on the other side, they work very closely with the product team. They work closely with the designers, with the product managers, with the engineers who are responsible for building the product. So by bringing insights from the users into product discussions, UX researchers ensure that the decisions that the teams make are informed by real human experiences and not just by assumptions. One of the reasons why UX research has gained so much attention in technology in recent times is because, technology is now deeply integrated into our everyday lives. Product now influences how we communicate, how we learn, how we work, and even how we access services. And because of all of that, companies are now increasingly recognizing that understanding real user behavior is quite critical to building successful products. And in addition to that, modern product teams heavily rely on data-informed decision making. Instead of building features or building products based on just assumptions, the teams are now increasingly looking for evidence to guide their decisions. And really, that evidence can come from various sources such as the product analytics itself, business metrics, and feedback from users. And UX research plays an important role in that process, especially to help teams understand the human side of the data. Data such as what problems are users trying to solve, what are they experiencing, why do they behave a certain way, what are their frustrations, those human side of things. So by combining insights from user research with other forms of data, the product team can make better informed decisions on what to build, what to improve on, what problems to prioritize. So the growing emphasis on understanding the users is one reason why UX research will continue to be important in product development. Now, at this point, you might be wondering if UX research might be a good fit for you. And the interesting thing about this field is that people come into it from different backgrounds. Some people start in psychology or other social sciences. Others start from design, marketing, computer science, HCI, or even other engineering courses. And one thing that successful UX researchers have in common is the genuine interest in understanding people and solving problems. For example, if you find yourself asking questions like, why do people behave this way? Or what makes certain experiences confusing or frustrating? Or how could a product work better for users? Those kind of questions are very much aligned with the mindset of a UX researcher. If I can summarize it, in many ways, UX research is a field for people who enjoy observing behaviors, who love to ask thoughtful questions, and enjoy uncovering insights that help to improve user experiences. Now, let's talk about the skills that are really important if you want to become a UX researcher. So the first group of skills I want to talk about is what I call the research thinking skills. And really, this is just your ability to approach problems in a structured and thoughtful way. As a researcher, you are not just jumping into solutions. Usually, you are taking a step back and asking questions. You are asking questions like, what are we trying to understand here? Who do we need to learn from? And what's the best way to get the insights that we need? So these research thinking skills will include skills like designing user studies, framing clear research questions, choosing the right methods, and also analyzing the data that you collect at the end of the day. So for example, remember the mobile app example that I gave earlier about users struggling with the checkout process? As a UX researcher on that team, you would stop and instead of guessing why that is happening, you would ask questions like, what exactly is going on here? Who should we talk to? And what method would help us understand this best? So that kind of thinking helps to ensure that the research is intentional, it's structured, it's focused, and it's not just some random exploration. And over time, it helps you move from guessing to understanding user behavior in a more evidence-based way. Another important skill is analytical thinking. UX researchers often work with large amounts of data. So imagine data from transcripts from user interviews, survey responses, observations from usability studies, and sometimes even behavioral data from products. So the UX researcher's job is to carefully go through this information and look for patterns. Patterns that reveal how users think, how users behave, and how they experience a product. For example, after conducting several interviews, a researcher might notice that multiple participants mention the same frustrations when completing a task, even if they use different words to describe that frustration. Or maybe during a usability testing, they may observe that several people get stuck at the same step in a workflow. And when you start to see these patterns repeat, that's usually an indicator that something important is happening in that user experience. And analytical skill in this case is what helps UX researchers take all of those observations, organize them clearly, and turn them into meaningful insights. Insights that the product teams can then use to improve the product. Another important skill is communication. UX researchers often need to share their findings with various people. Share with designers, with engineers, with product managers, and leadership. And here's the important part. Research is only valuable if people can understand it and do something with it. So a big part of your job as a UX researcher is taking something that you have learned from the users and translating that into something clear and actionable. For example, instead of just saying users struggled with this feature, you want to explain what exactly is going on. So you want to explain where they struggled, why it happened, and what that means for the product experience. And so that's what helps the team take research and turn it into real decisions. Decisions like improving a workflow, redesigning a feature, or prioritizing what to fix next. So in many ways, communication is what turns research from something interesting into something impactful. Another very useful skill is product awareness or product thinking. This really is about understanding how product teams work and how decisions are made within the organization. In most companies, building a product is a collaborative effort. So you have designers, you have product managers, engineers, and researchers all working together. And understanding that environment helps you know where research is most helpful. For example, in some instances, research is needed early on to understand user needs before anything is even designed. And some other times, research is needed much later to evaluate whether what is designed actually works well for users. And so when you understand how products are built, especially in your organization, you are able to make sure that your research is not just interesting, but actually relevant to the decisions the team needs to make. And that's what makes your work truly valuable. Now, this isn't an exhaustive list of skills, but these are some of the most important ones to focus on, especially when you're just getting started. Beyond skills, there are certain personal qualities that tend to make researchers more effective. And one of the most important of those is curiosity. It's like number one. Curiosity is what makes researchers move from asking just surface level questions to asking deeper questions and really explore the why behind user behavior. So instead of just observing that a user struggled with a task, a curious researcher would pause and ask questions. They will ask questions like, why did that happen? What was the user expecting at that moment? And what part of the experience actually caused that confusion? So that mindset allows you to go beyond surface level observations to really understanding the underlying reasons behind what users do. And over time, that curiosity helps you to uncover insights that might otherwise be missed. Another key personal quality is empathy. Empathy is what helps researchers truly understand users' experiences and frustrations on a deeper level. Empathy is about being able to step into the user's shoes and see the experience from their perspective. So not just about what they're doing, but how they're feeling while they're doing it. For example, let's say during a usability study, a participant might hesitate for a few seconds before clicking a button. Now, that pause might signal uncertainty or even confusion about what might happen next. And moments like that are very important because they help you understand how the experience actually feels for the user. And so empathy plays a big role, especially during usability studies and user interviews, because it will help you create a comfortable environment where participants are open to sharing their honest experiences. And most times, that's where the most valuable insights come from. Another important quality is adaptability. We all know that technology evolves very quickly, and so do the products and services that people use every day. And so because of this, UX researchers often need to adjust their approach as new information comes in or as the project goals change. For example, during a research study, you might discover new user behavior that might require you to adjust your research questions or explore a different direction. In addition, the tools and methods that we use continue to evolve. So being open to learning new methods, learning new tools, learning new ways of working is very important because that's what helps you to stay effective and continue to deliver meaningful insights to your team. Another important quality I'd like to talk about is critical thinking. Critical thinking helps you to evaluate information carefully and avoid jumping into conclusion too quickly. In research, not everything is always straightforward. For example, sometimes what users say and what they actually do don't always fully match. A simple example is a user might say that a feature is easy to use, but during testing, you find out that they struggle completing the tasks using that feature. And moments like this require you to pause and think more deeply. And you might ask yourself questions like, what is going on here? Is this a consistent behavior across users? and what might be influencing this behavior. And so again, critical thinking helps you to move beyond surface level observations and arrive at insights that are more accurate and more meaningful. I will add one last personal trait or personal quality, which is attention to detail. User behavior often reveals important insights through very small signals. Going back to an example that I gave earlier about a user doing a test, hesitating for a few seconds before clicking a button. That hesitation, though small, can indicate confusion or uncertainty. Or maybe while you are reviewing data from your user interview, you notice that several participants describe the same problem in slightly different ways. You see, those small details, they can point to a larger pattern. And being able to notice and connect those small details is what helps you to uncover deeper insights about how users experience a product. So as you can see, these personal qualities really shape how you think and approach research. Now, the next question you might be asking is, how do you actually get started? What kind of education do you need to become a UX researcher? Let's talk about that. One of the encouraging things about UX research is that there are multiple pathways into this field. And what that means is that there isn't just one correct route. People come into UX research from a wide range of background, both academic and professional. Some people start to explore UX research from their undergraduate studies, especially if they are studying areas related to human behavior, design, or technology. In terms of academic programs that are related to UX research, we have human-computer interaction, HCI, we have cognitive science, we have psychology, sociology, information science, design or interaction design. So during their undergraduate studies, students often begin to build relevant skills through their coursework, through research projects, through internships, or even collaborations with product and design teams. And this is often where people start developing a foundation in research methods and user-centered thinking. Now, some people choose to go further and pursue graduate degrees like master's or a PhD, which on its own can provide you with deeper research trainings, expose you to mentors, research labs, and even provide internship opportunities. It's also important to note that going back to school is not the only pathway into UX research. Some people also transition into the field from UX bootcamps or specialized training programs. And some others take a more self-directed approach, learning through online courses, books, research articles, and hands-on projects. For example, someone might learn research methods online, practice by running small user studies, and gradually build a portfolio that shows how they approach problems. And ultimately, what matters most is not the specific path that you take, but whether you are able to develop the knowledge, the research thinking, and practical experience needed to truly understand users and to generate meaningful insights. Now, once you start thinking about the different pathways to UX research, another common question that comes up is, how do I actually get my first experience? And this is something that a lot of beginners worry about. So you might be thinking, how do I get experience if I've never worked a UX research job before, or if I've never worked as a UX researcher before? But the good news is there are several ways to start building your experience, even if you are just getting started. For students, you have class projects. Your class projects can really be a great starting point for you. You have research assignments, you have design projects, you have group works. All this can easily be expanded into portfolio case studies that show how you investigate user problems and generate insights. And if you are transitioning from another field, you can also create your own opportunities. For example, you might pick an existing product or app and you study how people interact with it. You could interview users about their experience. Users could even be your friends. Observe how they complete certain tasks or identify where they run into challenges. Another option might be to collaborate with others like designers or developers working on small projects. This could be a startup, a non-profit, or even a friend building something. What this kind of experience will do for you is it will give you a chance to practice real research methods, and then you can start to build your portfolio from there. But here's the key part. You want to approach this project with the same level of thoughtfulness you would bring to a real professional research study. That means clearly defining the problem, choosing the right method, and carefully analyzing what you learn. And just as important, you want to document your process. For each project, make sure you document things like the research questions you were trying to answer, the method or methods that you used, the patterns or insight that you discovered, and the recommendations you would make. Over time, this documentation becomes the foundation of your UX research portfolio. And that's what helps to show not just what you did, but how you think as a researcher, which is equally very important. Another important aspect of entering the field is connecting with other researchers and becoming a part of the community. Networking can play a very valuable role, especially when you are learning about a new field, because it gives you the opportunity to learn directly from people who are already working in that space. Through these connections, you might discover things like job opportunities, mentorship, and even emerging trends in the field. And the good thing is there are many different ways to connect with other researchers. You might join UX communities, you could attend conferences, or even local meetups, or connect with people online. We have LinkedIn that does a great job. And it doesn't always have to be something big. Even small actions like following researchers, reading their posts, engaging with their posts, or joining conversations about research topics can help you learn and stay engaged with the field. And over time, being part of a community doesn't just help you to grow professionally, it also helps you to feel more connected to the broader UX research ecosystem. Before we wrap up, I'd like to share an honest perspective about entering the field. Becoming a UX researcher or breaking into UX research often require patience and persistence. Of course, like many tech roles, it can be competitive. And building the right combination of skills, of experience, of portfolio projects can take time. For some people, the journey might involve learning research methods, practicing through small projects, and then gradually building their confidence. But if you genuinely enjoy understanding human behavior, asking thoughtful questions, and improving how people interact with technology, then UX research can be an incredibly rewarding career path for you. If I could summarize, UX research is ultimately about understanding people and using those insights to build better experiences. And that's work that continues to grow in importance. And if you're exploring UX research, you might also enjoy some of the other videos that I have on this channel. Please make sure to check them out. I'll also be sharing more on this topic, so watch out for those videos. Oh, some other important thing, I'm currently working on a UX research transition guide that helps you translate your past experience into UX research language, especially if you're transitioning from a different field. So if that's something that you might be interested in, feel free to let me know. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. It really helps to support this channel, and it helps to ensure that I keep creating more videos like this. Also, don't forget to click on the like button so that other people like you can find the video. And if you're seeing my face for the first time, hi, my name is Tobi Lasisi. I am a full-time user experience researcher. I currently work in the quantum domain. And on this channel, I share everything UX research from starting out to career advancement. So if that's something that you might be interested in, please make sure to stick around. I definitely would love to have you here. And just before you go, please note that I always love to hear from you. So feel free to let me know what you think about this video. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know where you are in your journey. Let me know what you want me to talk about next. Let me know anything that comes to mind for you. It's always a pleasure hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for watching and sticking around with me. I'll see you in another video.